This is Andy Purewal of Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm joined by trainer Max McCracken over Zoom. Max, firstly, Happy New Year. I hope you had a good one and a good Christmas. Did you have much going on?
Yeah, it was a nice New Year, and glad it's like I said, glad it's out the way now and getting to this new season, this new year. Yeah, how was yours?
It was all good. It was good just to be back with my family. Had a busy 2021. But away from that, obviously, it's good to catch up with you for a Zoom interview as well. Let's touch on your heavyweight stable. Start off with Matt Harris, as I've just caught up with him. It made his debut late last year, come away with a points victory. What did you make from his win? Just going back to it, Max.
Yeah, it was a good debut for him. You know, considering he's only had 7 amateur fights. Yeah, he done well. He loved the occasion as well, and like all the razzmatazz of it and that, the ring walk and the music, and he was dancing around the ring, and he was comfortable. You know, he was comfortable in the fight throughout the fight. Thought he boxed well, and you know, he's no pushover man. If you know, he's experienced amateur. He's experienced pro as well, and he's jumping on with all the prospects, and you know, usually goes a distance. So yeah, it was a good debut. I was happy with it.
For those who do want to watch that back, that was live on Boxing Social, so they can tune in and watch the replays on our YouTube channel. But away from plugging Matty's fight, what is going to be the plan for him moving into this year, Max? What would you like to see him go on to do?
Well, this year he's got, you know, the first year he's had about 5 fights. So we'll be looking to get him out end of Feb, March. Just keep building him and developing him. You know, there's no rush with him. He's only 21. He had a limited amateur career, but, you know, he's looking good for, you know, for his amateur background. You'd think he'd have had a lot more fights. And he's coming on, he's improving, you know, he's improving all the time. So, yeah, exciting times for him.
You said he's young, he's only 21, limited amateur background, Max. So what level of opposition do you see him eventually progressing to face towards, say, the back end of 2022?
Well, you know, towards the end of the year, you know, I suppose he'll be into about his 5th fight, won't he? So, you know, he'll be in 6 rounders then. And just developing, just learning, you know. He's the youngest active heavyweight in the country. So, you know, that just shows, doesn't it? We've got plenty of time. And then Wasserman are on board with that. They want to develop him properly, bring him along at the right pace. And I think in the long, you know, potentially, you know, if he does everything he needs to do in boxing, I think he can be a world-class fighter in, you know, 4 or 5 years.
Max, touch on the sparring situation with Matty for me. I just spoke to him. He said for some reason he struggled recently to get sparring over the line. Is that just down to kind of logistics of getting certain sparring partners lined up, or is it because of how well he's been performing in the gym? Or what, you know, what is that down to?
Yeah, it's just like, you know, fighters are in different, you know, stages, aren't they, in their camps and all that. So sometimes it doesn't always fall into place, but it's, you know, we're okay now. And a couple didn't want to spar him. They just says, we don't want to spar him. Do you know, I don't know what it was. They did something about him, but I don't know. But anyway, but he's got sparring this week now. He's got a good kid amateur kid, Simon Abiqui. He won the Midlands. He got to the quarters of the ABAs. So he's coming over Friday with Gary Blower from Studio. They're coming over to spar. And then Monday we're sparring Fraser Clark in Loughborough. And then next Thursday, hopefully we'll be sparring David Adelaide down in London.
I mean, those 2 names in particular for next week, starting off with Fraser Clark, Olympic bronze medalist from last summer out in Tokyo. Couldn't really get much better than that for somebody so young in Matty's case. No,
it's good. Great experience for him. You know, Fraser's been around a while, hasn't he? He's been the amateurs, world-class amateur. I was really pleased with Fraser getting that bronze. You know, he stayed there for so long. He put so much into it, you know. If he didn't get it, we wouldn't have been thinking about it. So I'm really pleased for him. I think he'll start thriving now, Fraser. He's got a really big future ahead of him. You know, big things are ahead of him. Yeah, so it'll be a great spar between the both of them.
Max, I'm sure you know Fraser as good as anyone from the work Rob's done up at GB when you've been up there as well. He's been on that setup for a decade. With Fraser now going into this heavyweight mix, what do you think is going to be the right path for him to try to maneuver into a world title position to challenge for world honours? Because it's obviously what he wants to do, but you see people questioning because of his age, his time on his side. But then you look at what Joe Joyce did, and he's on the verge of a world title crack himself now.
Yeah, I think early on they've got a bit take the time with him, you know, just match him right early on. But I suppose once he gets to about 7 or 8 fights, he'll have these step ups, you know. And I suppose there'll be a couple of domestic clashes as well on his way through, Fraser. if he's looking to get into them world rankings. So there'll be some good fights ahead of him, and he's a big. I think he'll be a big ticket seller, Fraser. Bring a lot of excitement to the division.
Away from Fraser, away from Matty, to go into your other heavyweight charge, Solomon Dakers. He had a very impressive win last time out in October against Kamil Sokolowski, Max. It's one which I've said on numerous occasions, he can go under the radar because Sokolowski's record can be deceiving. He's had a number of fights where you could suggest he should have been on the end of a win instead of a defeat. How impressed were you from what Sol produced on the night?
Yeah, it was nice and cool and calm in there. Sol was took his time and he boxed well, boxed a good fight, and I think class Sokolowski at times. It was a really good win. But I knew what he was going to do. He's a quality fighter, Sol. He works so hard in the gym. He's very dedicated. You have to slow him down at times. You know what I mean? He's one of them. But you could see with Sokolowski. Sokolowski was in good form. I think he should have got it against David Adelaide. And then that was before Sol. And after Sol, he beat the other kid, George Fox.
Yeah.
So it was a good win for Sol. And he'll get good, really good experience from it. But I think before the end of the year, Sol, he'll be looking at an English title. So, it's the same with him. He'll move, quite at a good pace, Sol, because, he's 28. It's got to be the right matches, but he wants to move himself. He wants to get ahead.
Something I was going to ask you, what's going to be the plan for him? I was speaking to him yesterday. He said he's happy for anyone around that English-British level, put names maybe like a Nick Webb to him, and he mentioned Alan Babbage. Would you be happy to see Sol face somebody like an Alan Babbage?
Yeah, I mean, two or three more fights, he fight Babbage, but, it's got to be something on the line. It's a big fight, that is. So, it's got to be at least a 10-round, and you want to get a ranking out of it or something, when he beats him. But, yeah, any of them really, once he's had enough fights and a bit more experience, he's ready for them sort of step-ups, in 10s, 12s.
And Max, just moving away from those guys, get your thoughts on the rest of the heavyweight division. One starting point, I'm sure you probably expected me to bring it up. There's been a lot of talk about where Anthony Joshua's career will lie with regards to him and Rob, your brother, if they'll be working together in the near future for that Alexander Usyk rematch. Max, just want to get your thoughts on those reports, those rumours, and seeing AJ out stateside talking to a number of different trainers.
It looks as though they're going to part ways, doesn't it? When you look from the outside looking in. I mean, I haven't had really in-depth conversations with Rob about it, but it looks as though they're going to part ways. They've had a great run, haven't they? It's the same but it goes from both sides. Sometimes you both need a change. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's it. They've got to that point, but I don't know. I mean, Josh, he's got a lot of people around him, a lot of people in his ear. So, I wish him all the best. And, either of them, they've had a great run and they'll always stay friends and stay close.
I was going to say, they've had a terrific run, a terrific relationship throughout. If you were in AJ's shoes now, how does he actually need to approach an Alexander Usyk rematch?
It's depending what coach he's looking at, or he's got to be smart in the next fight, but he's got to be. He's got to let his hands go. He's got to punch and bunch. He's got to get his feet in the position. He's letting Usyk couldn't believe he's looking at fight. His jab was weak and everything. He's got to put a bit more spite in his jab, put his combinations together, get his feet into position, and go for it. I think it's one of them fights where you've got to put everything into it. Not start gassing out early, but really go for it. Really put it on him, really rough him up, use his weight and his size. Land them right hands. He's got to be more aggressive, but smart, educated pressure.
Max, I've seen some people suggest that since his loss to Ruiz, he's struggled to overcome kind of a mental barrier of what's coming back at him. That's why he doesn't want to let his hands go. Have you seen that in AJ's performances where he's maybe holding back because he's more concerned at what's coming back at him?
Yeah, I mean, everyone can see, can't they? He's a little bit gun shy, isn't he? But, if he can snap out of that and get back to his old ways, he's got a chance. But if he's tentative and he's trying to fiddle his way through these fights, especially with someone like Usyk, he's got no chance. He's definitely looks a little bit gun shy, but I mean, he's had a couple, that was a bad defeat against Ruiz, wasn't it? After that, he does look a little bit of a different fighter.
moving away from AJ, Max, get your thoughts on another heavyweight king in Britain, Tyson Fury. There's a lot of talk about him and Dillian White at the minute. Just get your take. If we did see them two square off next as well, what are your thoughts?
It's a great fight, that is. Dillian White's a good fighter, and he's tough, he's game, and he'll go for it, Dillian White will. I think it'll be a great fight. Hopefully it happens. I couldn't pick a winner between that at the minute, really.
I mean, there was also talk at one stage going back quite a few months now of AJ potentially stepping aside to allow Fury Usyk to square off in an undisputed bout. I know that I said we'd move past AJ, but just to kind of get your thoughts on it, do you think that would have been something worth considering a bit more than what's probably been suggested?
It'd have to be a lot of money, wouldn't it, for Josh to step aside? It'd have to be real big money. But I don't think he was ever wanting to step aside. I think he's a fighter, isn't he, Joshua? He wants to get back in there and, put a wrong right.
Again, just moving forwards, Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora, Eddie Hearn has said that he wouldn't mind making a fight there. It's had a bit of a mixed reaction online because we've seen Derek's provided so much entertainment to fans throughout his career, but he's had some tough fights whilst doing so. What are your thoughts, Max? Would you be interested to see Deontay and Derek?
Not really, no. He's entertained enough, Derek Chisora. I like Derek Chisora. And I wouldn't like to see him be, taking bombs off Deontay Wilder. I could see him walking onto one, and it's not good for him at the stages, where he's in his career. There's better fights for him than Deontay Wilder. I don't think he needs that fight.
And Max, just two more fights I want to get your thoughts on, which are coming up. Feb 19th, Amir Khan and Cal Brook finally face off. What are your thoughts?
It's still a massive fight, isn't it? Still massive interest. You can look for both ways. You can see Khan probably getting to Brook early with his speed, or Brook, timing him later on in the second half of the fight. But it's a great fight, and I'd stand with that one. I can't pick a winner at the minute. Probably slightly edged towards Brook.
And then
keep changing my mind. No.
I was going to say I'll speak to you in a couple of weeks' time when you'll have changed it. Another one to get your thoughts on is Chris Eubank Jr. and Liam Williams. What are your thoughts and what is your take on that one?
A great fight that is. That's like a fight from the 80s. That is brilliant fight. But it's a 50-50. Liam Williams is a good fighter. Eubank's very tough, and he's got a great work rate, great engine, really good fight. If I had to pick, I'd probably slightly go towards Eubank on the freshness. I know Liam Williams had an shoulder operation, didn't he? Not long ago. He's coming back from a defeat as well. So I'll probably just edge to Eubank, but I could be wrong.
Right, Max, we'll leave it there now. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. It's been a pleasure to catch up with you as always, and thank you for speaking to me at Boxing Social.
Cheers, Andy. See you soon, mate.